A student's overview of the ageless wisdom was carefully compiled from the following books by Alice A. Bailey. A Treatise on Cosmic Fire. Esoteric Psychology, Volumes 1 and 2. Esoteric Healing. Esoteric Astrology. The Rays and the Initiations. Students are encouraged to download the free PDF version of this overview by following the link in the video's description, or to order a printed copy at cost from thebookpatch.com, but are advised to read the original, unabridged books in order to gain deeper insight into the ageless wisdom. Students are also invited to join our online study group at facebook.com/groups/students of the ageless wisdom. Chapter 46, Esoteric Healing. Section 4. Esoteric Healing. Introductory Remarks. The entire subject of healing is as old as the ages themselves, and has ever been the subject of investigation and experiment, but as to the right use of the healing faculty and forces, the knowledge is in its infancy. Only in this age and generation is it at last possible to impart the laws of magnetic healing, and to indicate the causes of those diseases, originating in the three inner bodies, which today devastate the human frame, cause endless suffering and pain, and usher man through the portal which leads to the world of bodiless existence. Only today is man at the point in the evolution of his consciousness where he can begin to realize the power of the subjective worlds, and the new and vast science of psychology is his response to this growing interest. Processes of adjustment, of elimination and of cure engage the minds of all thoughtful people as well as of all suffering people. We have much to do, and I ask therefore for patience on your part. When one enters the realm of healing, one enters a world of much esoteric knowledge, and of an infinity of conclusions, and one is faced with the formulations of many minds, who, through the ages, have sought to heal and to help. The why and the wherefore of disease have been the subject of endless investigations and speculations, and much definite deduction has been made as to the cures of such complaints. There has been also much formulation of methods, of techniques, of formulae, of prescription, of varied manipulations and of theories. All these serve to fill the mind with many ideas, some correct, some erroneous, and this makes it most difficult for new ideas to enter and for the student to assimilate the hitherto unknown. Aspirants lose much by refusing to let go of that which the lower mind cherishes. When they do succeed in being entirely open-minded and are ready to accept the new theories and hypotheses, they discover that the old and dearly held truth is not really lost, but only relegated to its rightful place in a larger scheme. All initiates of the ageless wisdom are necessarily healers, though all may not heal the physical body. The reason for this is that all souls that have achieved any measure of true liberation are transmitters of spiritual energy. This automatically affects some aspect of the mechanism which is used by the souls they contact. When I employ the word mechanism in these instructions, I refer to different aspects of the instrument, the body or form nature, through which all souls seek manifestation. I refer, therefore, to the dense physical body, which is the sum total of all the organisms which compose it. These possess the varying functions which enable the soul to express itself on the physical or objective plane as part of a greater and more inclusive organism. The physical body is the response apparatus of the indwelling spiritual man and serves to put that spiritual entity in rapport with the response apparatus of the planetary logos, the life in which we live and move and have our being. The etheric body, which has one main objective. This is to vitalize and energize the physical body and thus integrate it into the energy body of the Earth and of the solar system. It is a web of energy streams, of lines of force and of light. It constitutes part of the vast network of energies which underlies all forms, whether great or small, microcosmic or macrocosmic. Along these lines of energy the cosmic forces flow, as the blood flows through the veins and arteries. This constant, individual, human, planetary and solar, circulation of life forces through the etheric bodies of all forms is the basis of all manifested life, and the expression of the essential non-separateness of all life. The astral or desire body, sometimes called the emotional body, is the effect of the interplay of desire and of sentient response upon the self at the center, and the resultant effect, in that body, is experienced as emotion and as pain and pleasure and the other pairs of opposites. In these two bodies, the etheric and astral bodies, 90% of the causes of physical disease and troubles is to be found. End of page 237. The mental body, or that much of the chitta or mind stuff which an individual human unit can use and impress, constitutes the fourth of the series of mechanisms at the disposal of the soul. At the same time, let it not be forgotten that these four constitute one mechanism. 5% of all modern disease originates in this body or state of consciousness, and here I wish to enunciate the truth that the constant reiteration by certain schools of healers that the mind is the cause of all sickness is not as yet a fact. 1,000,000 years hence, when the focus of human attention has shifted from the emotional nature to the mind, and when men are essentially mental as today they are essentially emotional, then the causes of disease must be sought in the mind realm. They are today to be found, except in a few rare cases, in lack of vitality or in too much stimulation, and in the realm of feeling, of desires, thwarted or overindulged, and in the moods, suppressions, or expressions of the deep-seated longings, irritations, secret delights and the many hidden impulses which emanate from the desire life of the subject. I shall endeavor first of all to touch upon the causes of disease, for the occult student must ever begin in the world of origins and not in the world of effects. In the second place, I shall elaborate the 7 methods of healing which govern the work of restitution, as it is called in the occult terminology, as practiced by the initiates of the world. These determine the techniques which must be employed. You will note that these methods and techniques are conditioned by the rays and that therefore the healer has to take into consideration not only his own ray but also the ray of the patient. There are therefore 7 ray techniques, and these require elucidation before they can be applied intelligently. In the third place, I shall lay emphasis upon psychological healing and upon the need to deal with the patient in his inner life, for the basic law underlying all occult healing may be stated to be as follows. Law I. All disease is the result of inhibited soul life, and that is true of all forms in all kingdoms. The art of the healer consists in releasing the soul, so that its life can flow through the aggregate of organisms which constitute any particular form. It is interesting to note that the attempt of the scientist to release the energy of the atom is of the same general nature as the work of the esotericist when he endeavors to release the energy of the soul. In this release, the nature of the true art of healing is hidden. Herein lies an occult hint. In the fourth place, we will consider the physical body, its diseases and ills, but only after we have studied that part of man which lies behind and surrounding the dense physical body. In that way we shall work from the world of inner causes to the world of outer happenings. We shall see that all that concerns the health of man originates from the sum total of forces, feelings, desires and occasional mental processes which characterizes the three subtler bodies and determines the life and experience of the physical body. The effect upon the physical body of the condition of humanity as a whole. A human being is an integral part of humanity, an organism in a greater organism. Conditions existing in the whole will be reflected in the unit self, and many of the ills from which man suffers today are the effect upon him of conditions existing in the fourth kingdom in nature as a whole. For these he is not held responsible. The effect upon his physical body of the planetary life, which is the expression of the life of the planetary logos, who is an evolving entity. The implications of this are largely beyond our ken, but the effects are discernible. I am not interested primarily in training individuals in order to make them more efficient healers. It is group healing at which I aim, and it is the work which is done in formation which interests me at this time. But no group of people can work as a unit unless they love and serve each other. 2 words I give you which embody the requirements of all true healers, and towards which you must work. They are magnetism and radiation. End of page 238. A healer must be magnetic above everything else, and he must attract to him a. The power of his own soul. This involves alignment through individual meditation. B. Those whom he can help. This involves a decentralized attitude. C. Those energies, when need arises, which will stimulate the patient to the desired activity. This involves occult knowledge and a trained mind. The healer must understand also how to radiate, for the radiation of the soul will stimulate to activity the soul of the one to be healed, and the healing process will be set in motion. The radiation of his mind will illumine the other mind and polarize the will of the patient. The radiation of his astral body, controlled and selfless, will impose a rhythm upon the agitation of the patient's astral body, and so enable the patient to take right action, whilst the radiation of the vital body, working through the splenic center, will aid in organizing the patient's force body and so facilitate the work of healing. The basic causes of disease. From the beginning of our studies, I would like to point out that the ultimate cause of disease, even if known to me, would fail to be comprehended by you. The cause lies back in the history of the distant past of our planet, in the career, occultly understood, of the planetary life, and that it has its roots in what is largely designated cosmic evil. This is a perfectly meaningless phrase, but one that is symbolically descriptive of a condition in consciousness which is that of certain of the imperfect gods. Given the initial premise that deity itself is working towards a perfection past our comprehension, it may be inferred that there may exist for the gods themselves and for God, as the life of the solar system, certain limitations and certain areas or states of consciousness which still await mastering. These limitations and relative imperfections may cause definite effects in their bodies of manifestation, the various planets as expressions of lives, and the solar system as the expression of a life. Given also the hypothesis that these outer bodies of divinity, the planets, are the forms through which certain deities express themselves, it may be a true and logical deduction that all lives and forms within those bodies may be necessarily subject also to these limitations, and to the imperfections growing out of these unconquered areas of consciousness and these states of awareness, hitherto unrealized by the deities, incarnated in planetary and solar form. Given the postulate that every form is a part of a still greater form, and that we do indeed live and move and have our being within the body of God, as St. Paul expresses it, we, as integral parts of the fourth kingdom in nature, share in this general limitation and imperfection. It is surely better for us to admit that it is not possible for man to understand the deep-seated causes of that which can be seen emerging in the evolution of form life. Is it not wise to face the issue and the facts, as they exist for our present realization, and understand that just as man can enter more intelligently into the mind of God than can the lesser mind of the animal, so there may exist other and greater minds, functioning in other and higher kingdoms in nature which will surely see life more truly and more accurately than does mankind. It is possible, is it not, that the objective of evolution, as outlined and emphasized by man, may be only that partial fragment of a greater objective than he, with his finite understanding, can grasp. The whole intent, as it lies hid in the mind of God, may be very different to what man may conceive today, and cosmic evil and cosmic good, reduced to terminologies, may lose their significance altogether, and are only to be seen through the glamour and the illusion with which man surrounds all things. The best minds of this age are only just beginning to see the first dim ray of light which is piercing this glamour, and serving first of all to reveal the fact of illusion. Through the light thus cast, the following truth may stand revealed to those who have the expectant attitude and the open mind: deity itself is on the road towards perfection. The implications of that statement are many. In dealing with the causes of disease, we will take the position that the foundational and ultimate cosmic cause lies beyond our comprehension, and that only as the kingdom of God is revealed on earth shall we enter into some real understanding of the general widespread disease to be found upon our planet in all the four kingdoms in nature. A few basic statements can be made, however, which will be found true eventually in the macrocosmic sense, and can already be demonstrated to be true where the microcosm is intelligently concerned. End of page 239. All disease is caused by lack of harmony, a disharmony to be found existing between the form aspect and the life. That which brings together form and life, or rather, that which is the result of this intended union, we call the soul, the self where humanity is concerned, and the integrating principle where the subhuman kingdoms are concerned. Disease appears where there is a lack of alignment between these various factors, the soul and the form, the life and its expression, the subjective and the objective realities. Consequently, spirit and matter are not freely related to each other. This is one mode of interpreting law I, and the entire thesis is intended to be an exposition of that law. This lack of harmony, producing what we call disease, runs through all the four kingdoms in nature, and causes those conditions which produce pain, where the sentiency is developed, and everywhere congestion, corruption and death. Ponder on these words: inharmony, disease, pain, congestion, corruption, death, for they are descriptive of the general condition governing the conscious life of all forms, macrocosmic and microcosmic. They are not causes. All these conditions, however, can be regarded as purificatory in their effects, and must be so regarded by humanity if the right attitude towards disease is to be assumed. This is oft forgotten by the fanatical healer and by the radical exponent of an idea, finitely grasped and in most cases only part of a greater idea. Methods of healing and techniques of alleviation are peculiar to humanity and are the result of man's mental activity. They indicate his latent power as a creator, and as one who progresses towards freedom. They indicate his discriminative ability to sense perfection, to vision the goal, and hence to work towards that ultimate liberation. His error at this time consists in his inability to see the true uses of pain, his resentment at suffering, his misunderstanding of the law of non-resistance, his overemphasis of the form nature, his attitude to death, and his feeling that the disappearance of the life out of visual perception through the medium of form, and the consequent disintegration of that form, indicates disaster. When human thought reverses the usual ideas as to disease, and accepts disease as a fact in nature, man will begin to work with the law of liberation, with right thought, leading to non-resistance. Disease is not, therefore, the result of wrong human thought. It existed among the many forms of life long before the human family appeared on earth. If you seek verbal expression, and if you want to talk within the limits of the human mind, you can say with a measure of accuracy, God, the planetary deity, is guilty of wrong thinking. But you will not be expressing the truth, but only a tiny fraction of the cause, as it appears to your feeble finite mind, through the medium of the general world glamour and illusion. Karma must be regarded in reality as the effect, in the form life of our planet, of causes, deep-seated and hidden in the mind of God. The causes that we may trace in relation to disease and death are in reality only the working out of certain basic principles which govern, rightly or wrongly, who shall say, the life of God in form, and they must ever remain incomprehensible to man until such time as he takes the great initiation which is symbolized for us in the Transfiguration. All along in our studies, we shall be dealing with secondary causes and their effects, with the phenomenal results of those subjective effects which emanate from causes too far away for us to grasp. This should be admitted and grasped. Rule 1. The healer must seek to link his soul, his heart, his brain and his hands. Thus can he pour the vital healing force upon the patient. This is magnetic work. It cures disease, or may increase the so-called evil state, according to the knowledge of the healer. The healer must seek to link his soul, his brain, his heart and auric emanation. Thus can his presence feed the soul life of the patient. This is the work of radiation. The hands are needed not. The soul displays its power. The patient's soul responds through the response of his aura to the radiation of the healer's aura, flooded with soul energy. End of page 240. In considering the causes of disease, I find it necessary to speak a word in connection with conditions external and internal. It will be apparent to the casual thinker that many diseases and many causes of death are due to environing conditions for which he is in no way responsible. These range all the way from purely external occurrences to hereditary predispositions. They might be listed as follows. 1. Accidents, which may be due to personal negligence, group happenings, the carelessness of other people, and the results of fighting, as in labor strikes or war. They can also be brought about by attacks from the animal or the snake world, accidental poisonings and many other causes. 2. Infections, coming to a man from outside and not as the result of his own peculiar blood condition. Such infections are the various so-called infectious and contagious diseases, and prevalent epidemics. These may come to a man in the line of duty, through his daily contacts, or through a widespread condition of disease in his environment. 3. Diseases, due to malnutrition, particularly when found in the young. This state of undernourishment predisposes the body to disease, lowers the resistance and the vitality, and offsets the fighting powers of the man, leading to premature death. 4. Heredity. There are, as you well know, certain forms of hereditary weaknesses, which either predispose a person to certain illnesses and consequent death, or produce in him those conditions which lead to a steady weakening of his hold on life. There are also those tendencies which constitute a form of dangerous appetite, which lead to undesirable habits, a letting down of the morale, and are dangerous to the will of the person, rendering him futile to fight these predispositions. He succumbs to them and pays the price of such habits, which is disease and death. Psychological causes of disease. The point I would like to make here, before proceeding further, is that I shall seek to avoid, as far as possible, all technicalities. Our theme is the esoteric consideration of disease and its forms. It seeks to elucidate the subjective and the vital causes of such diseases, and to indicate the general laws with which the healer must work and the 6 rules which he must impose upon himself, and to which he gives obedience, through discipline and understanding. You will have noted that I listed the psychological causes under 4 headings. 1. Those arising out of the emotional feeling nature. 2. Those which have their origin in the etheric body. 3. Those which are based on wrong thought. 4. The peculiar complaints and psychological troubles of disciples. It may have interested you to see that I place the ills of the etheric body in the 2nd place and not the 1st. The reason for this is that the group ills and diseases which have fastened upon the race, work primarily through the etheric body and find their way out into manifestation via the etheric bodies of all forms. Much of the failure of the healing methods at present employed consists in the inability of the healer to gauge the extent of the trouble, where it may be located basically, and in what body it principally arises and lies. Know where the patient stands upon the ladder of evolution, and where, therefore, he must look first for the source of the difficulty. Differentiate between the diseases which are due to interpersonal conditions, or to inherited tendencies, or to group distribution. To know whether the disease should be handled A. Allopathically or homeopathically, for both can play their part at times, or through any of the other media of modern skill and science. B. Through radiation or magnetization, or both. C. Through right inner psychological adjustment, aided by true insight of the healing agent. D. through calling in the power of a man's own soul, a thing not possible except the advanced. Through definite occult means, such as a healing triangle of master, healer, patient. End of page 241. I deal with the subjective aspect of man, and with the secondary causes which have their roots in man's inner bodies and in the subjective side of nature itself. I seek to make clear what man may do to free himself increasingly from the accumulation of the past, both individually and as a group, and in so doing to clear his physical body of the germs of disease. It must, however, be borne in mind that many diseases are of a group nature, and are consequently inherent in humanity itself. Just as the insect world devastates and destroys the vegetable kingdom, as any chance walker through the woods can note, so germs, individual and group, today devastate and destroy the human kingdom. They are agents of destruction and are performing a definite office and duty in the great scheme of things at present. The intent is for men to die, as every man has to die, at the demand of his own soul. When man has reached a higher stage in evolution, with deliberation and definite choice of time, he will consciously withdraw from his physical body. End of chapter 46.